Most Longview sellers make one big mistake before they ever put the sign in the yard. They plan around the date they want to move instead of planning around how long the market actually takes. And that one mistake can create a lot of stress. You find the next house too early, you rush the prep work, you get frustrated when the home doesn't sell the first weekend, or you feel pressure to accept the wrong offer because you're trying to force your timeline. So in this video, I want to give you a realistic timeline for selling a house in Longview, Texas. Not a national headline, not what happened during the crazy market a few years ago, and not what your neighbor said happened down the street. I want to walk you through the real timeline most sellers need to plan for. Here's the simplest way to think about it. There are 3 clocks running when you sell your home: the prep clock, the market clock, and the closing clock. Most sellers only think about the market clock. They ask, how long will my house be active? That matters, but it's not the whole story, because before your home ever hits the market, it has to be prepared. And after you accept an offer, you still have inspections, appraisal, title work, financing, and closing. I'm Austin Moore with Austin Moore & Company Real Estate here in Longview, Texas. And if you're thinking about selling, I want you to understand the full timeline before you start making plans. Let's start with the first clock, the prep clock. This is the part a lot of sellers underestimate. Before your house goes live, you may need time for cleaning, decluttering, touch-up work, small repairs, yard work, photography, pricing strategy, paperwork, and getting the listing ready. For some homes, that may only take a few days. For others, it may take 2 or 3 weeks. And this matters because your launch affects everything. The first impression does not start when a buyer walks through the front door. It starts online. If the photos are dark, the house looks cluttered, and the yard looks rough, or the price feels too high, a lot of buyers will never schedule the showing. They'll just move on to the next house. That's why I don't like rushing a listing to market just to say it's active. The goal is not just to get listed, the goal is to be positioned correctly. There's a big difference. Now let's talk about the second clock, the market clock. This is what most sellers mean when they ask, how long does it take to sell a house in Longview? In today's Longview real estate market, I would not build your plan around a guaranteed weekend sale. Can it happen? Yes. If the house is priced right, shows well, and fits what buyers are looking for, it can still move fast. But for planning purposes, many Longview sellers should be thinking in terms of several weeks on the market, not several days. A realistic planning window right now is about 45 to 70 days on the market before going under contract. That does not mean your house will take exactly that long. A clean, updated, well-priced home in a strong Longview location may sell faster. A higher-priced home, an outdated home, a home that needs repairs, or a home that starts too high on price may take longer. This is where sellers have to be honest. Your home is not just competing against what sold 6 months ago. It's competing against what buyers can choose from today. If a buyer has several homes to compare in Longview, they're looking at price, condition, updates, layout, location, photos, and overall feel. They're not just asking, do I like this house? They're asking, is this the best option for the money? That's the question your listing has to answer. Now, the first 2 weeks are extremely important. That's when your listing is fresh. That's when serious buyers notice it. That's when people who have already been watching Longview homes are going to click save, schedule, ask questions, or move on. So in those first couple of weeks, we want to see signs of life, showings, questions, second looks, agents asking about the roof, HVAC, updates, utilities, survey, or seller concessions. You may not get an offer immediately, but we should be getting feedback. And here's the part most sellers miss. Silence is feedback. If buyers are not scheduling showings, they're usually saying the price does not match what they're seeing online. If buyers are showing up but not making offers, they may be reacting to condition, layout, repairs, smell, clutter, or something that feels different in person than it did in the photos. And if buyers are making offers, but they're much lower than expected, that usually means the market sees the value differently than the seller does. That can be frustrating, but it's useful because the market is always talking. The question is whether we're willing to listen. Now, I know what some sellers are thinking. My neighbor sold their house in 3 days, and that may be true, but every sale has its own story. Maybe that home was priced aggressively. Maybe it was fully updated. Maybe it had a better floor plan. Maybe it had a cash buyer. Maybe they accepted terms you would not want to accept. Or maybe the market was just different at that exact time. One fast sale down the street does not automatically mean your house will follow the same timeline. So the better plan is simple. Hope for fast, prepare for realistic, and respond quickly to what buyers are telling you. Now let's talk about the third clock, the closing clock. This is the one that surprises sellers the most. Because once you accept an offer, it feels like the hard part should be over. And yes, getting the right offer is a big step, but accepting the offer is not the finish line. It's more like the halfway point. If your buyer is using financing, most contracts are going to need around 30 to 45 days to close. During that time, the buyer usually has an inspection. There may be repair negotiations. The lender orders the appraisal. The buyer's loan goes through underwriting. The title company works through title. The survey may need to be reviewed. Insurance has to be lined up. Closing documents have to be prepared. And the lender has to give final approval before closing and funding can happen. So let's put real numbers to it. If your home takes 60 days to go under contract, and then the buyer needs 40 days to close, you're at about 100 days from listing to closing. And that does not include the time you spent getting the house ready before it went live. That's why I tell sellers not to think only in terms of days on market, think about the whole process. Prep time, active market time, contract to closing. For many Longview sellers, a realistic full timeline can easily be 90 to 120 days from the time you start preparing to the time you actually close. Could it happen faster? Absolutely. But if you build your whole plan around everything going perfectly, you can put yourself under unnecessary pressure, especially if you're also buying another home or relocating or trying to move before school starts, or coordinating movers, storage, pets, kids, repairs, and all the other things that come with a move. A realistic timeline gives you breathing room, and breathing room helps you make decisions. Now, there are ways to speed this up, but the best way to speed it up is not panic. It's preparation. If you want to shorten the selling timeline, you need to remove buyer hesitation before the home ever hits the market. That means we need to look at things Longview buyers actually are paying attention to. Roof age, HVAC condition, foundation concerns, drainage, plumbing, electrical, wood rot, windows, flooring, paint, cleanliness, smells, curb appeal, and general maintenance. That does not mean you need to remodel the whole house. Sometimes sellers spend money on wrong things. The goal is not to make the home perfect. The goal is to make the home easier to say yes to. Sometimes that means deep cleaning. Sometimes it means decluttering. Sometimes it means touch-up paint. Sometimes it means trimming trees and cleaning up the yard. Sometimes it means fixing obvious repair items. And sometimes it means leaving the home as is, but pricing it correctly for its condition. The right answer depends on the house, but the principle is always the same. Buyers move faster when they feel confident. They slow down when they feel uncertain. And uncertainty is what kills momentum. That's why price, condition, and marketing all have to work together. Price gets buyers to click. Condition gets them to stay interested. Marketing gets the home in front of the right people. If one of those three is off, the timeline usually gets longer. This is where a lot of sellers lose time. They start too high. They wait too long to adjust. They ignore early feedback. Then by the time they finally respond, the listing has already lost its strongest momentum. I would rather have an honest pricing conversation before we list than have a painful pricing conversation after the market has already rejected the number. That does not mean giving the house away. It means positioning it correctly so the right buyers take it seriously. So here's the simple version. If you're selling a house in Longview, Texas, do not plan around a miracle timeline. Plan around the 3 clocks. The prep clock may take a few days to a few weeks. The market clock may take several weeks, with many homes needing around 45 to 70 days, depending on price, condition, and demand. And the closing clock is usually another 30 to 45 days if the buyer is using financing. So from start to finish, many sellers should be thinking in terms of a 90 to 120 day process. That's not meant to scare you. It's meant to help you plan, because when you understand the timeline, you can make better decisions. You know when to start getting the house ready. You know when to begin looking at your next move. You know how to avoid unnecessary pressure. and you know what signs to watch for once the home is active. If you're thinking about selling your house in Longview, the best thing you can do is start the conversation early. Before you're rushed, before you've already found the next house, before you're under pressure to make quick decisions. Let's look at your home, your neighborhood, your price range, your competition, and what buyers in Longview are actually doing right now. That way you're not guessing, you're working from a plan. If you want a realistic timeline for your specific home, reach out to me. I'll help you look at the numbers, understand the process, and build a plan from the first walkthrough all the way to the closing table. I'm Austin Moore with Austin Moore & Company Real Estate here in Longview, Texas. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.